Hello everyone, welcome to Task IAS. Today we will discuss Unit 7 Culture, Language and Communication. These are subtopics. Culture, Language and Communication. We will understand what is language, communication. We have already understood some idea about culture from anthropological theories which we have discussed. Second is nature, origin and characteristics of language, verbal and non-verbal communication, social context of language use. These are subtopics that we will cover today. Another important notification is that PDF of all ethics as well as anthropological lectures are available in Telegram channel, and link of this channel is given in description of video. Enjoy those written materials as well. Now, linguistic anthropology. I have covered those terms also which are not mentioned directly in syllabus but which are important to understand this topic. So, linguistic anthropology we have covered earlier when we have discussed about 4 branches of anthropology. Linguistic is anthropology originated from American division of 4 branches of anthropology, and this was given by Franz Boas. So what is linguistic anthropology? It is branch of anthropology that studies role of language in social life of individuals and communities. So linguistic anthropology is more about language and its role in social life, and in social life there is a important word, that is culture. So language have important relation with culture, which we will discuss in today's class. Another related word is linguistic, where focus is more on studying descriptive aspects of language. Now, linguistic anthropology explore how language shapes communication. It plays a huge role in social identity, group membership, establishing cultural behavior and ideology. You can relate this statement with paper 2 and more your general knowledge, where how language provides certain identity. For example, Dravidian languages or Punjabi language, they have even provide roots for growth of regionalism. You can connect these points as well according to demand of question. So Dale Hymas, he was a famous sociolinguistic. He was first person who used term linguistic anthropology. Now next is language and communication. Helen Keller had come to understand important function that language plays in all societies, that is communicate. So we should understand that communication is a broader term as compared to language, and here language is one of the means of communication. That means communication can be done from another ways. When we proceed, we will understand that communication is verbal as well as non-verbal. So in non-verbal communication, where our body language, surrounding environment, some symbols like swastik symbol, these have importance and they communicate some information which is not directly through language route. So that means communication is a broader term, language is a smaller term. Now word communicate comes from Latin verb communicare, to impart, to share, to make common. So this means communication has role in sharing information. Any system of language consists of publicly accepted symbols by which individuals try to share private experiences and thoughts. Now if they are using word symbol in statement, then you can connect how symbols were used by different anthropologists. You can mention Turner's view, you can mention Clifford Geertz's view, how symbols initiate culture, how symbols operate as a vehicle of culture. So these are different views by symbolic as well as interpretative anthropologists. So if answer demands more complicated and deep understanding, then you can write these points as well. How symbols which are used in language have important role in culture. Now communication is a much broader term than language. We have understood this point. It can involve any means of transmission of information as long as the symbol, signs, behavior are shared and commonly understood. So important need of communication is that information should be understood by another person. That means if one person is transferring information by any means like symbols, signs, etc., so it should be understood by second person for whom this information is transferred. Now next is theories about origin of language. And here origin of language, or you can mention about origin of communication, because these two terms are sometimes used interchangeably even in books. So first is divine source or biblical source. According to this, language or communication ability of human being is given by God. For example, according to this theory, whatever name Adam has used for living creatures, that was a part of language. So different names were used by Adam, and that's why there is creation of vocabulary by Adam by using different words. Hindu tradition language also mentions Saraswati and Brahma as creator of universe, and they are source of natural sound. Theories of natural evolution. According to them, invention, imitation hypothesis, ding dong hypothesis, poo poo hypothesis, Bow Howe and Tata hypothesis, they mention that language is evolved because of imitation of environment by human being, and these are subtypes of this particular theory. Now we will discuss these subtypes. First is ding dong. According to it, human named objects, actions and phenomena after a recognizable sound associated with it. For example, first human words were type of icon, a sign whose form is exact image of its meaning. For example, when there was any explosion, so sound was produced by boom. You can connect this with thunder. So there is some sound produced. So according to that sound which people have heard, they will create similar sounds, and that will produce communication. Now poo poo hypothesis. According to it, humans' first words were derived from expressions of dislike, hunger, pain or pleasures, and these dislike, hunger, pain, these are universal. Every society, whether it is simplest society or western world, these are almost universal symbols where human beings have tendency to express these by emotions. So by these sometimes voluntary or involuntary expressions, some sound was created. For example, ha ha ha, when someone is laughing. So combinations of these kind of words have led to creation of language. Now Bow Wow hypothesis. According to it, primitive sounds have been imitations of natural sounds which early man and woman have heard around them. For example, making a coco sound when an object is flying. So human tried to imitate this sound. So this is again a particular type of imitation, and this led to origin of communication. Now Tata hypothesis. According to it, Charles Darwin have mentioned that as activity of human hand has increased because of bipedalism, now different gestures are made by hand, and human tongue tried to imitate those gestures, and in that process different sounds were created, and these sounds led to creation of language. Now, necessity hypothesis. There are two versions of this necessity hypothesis. So necessity word indicates that there was urgent need. So according to first part, there was necessity, and this necessity is mother of invention. This is old saying. So according to it, when there was some emergency situations, for example thunder, or someone have stuck under mountain, then those peoples in pain try to make some sounds, and these sounds have similar meaning that in present word we use, like help or run. So these situations have led to invention of certain vocabulary, and that led to a long chain of words and again origin of language. Now, necessity hypothesis. According to it, this is more interesting. Humans have tendency to express themselves, and this was more kind of involuntary. So this involuntary action have led to display of truth, for example hunger or pain or pleasure. So humans have tendency to express. So but when human try to tell lie, so they have to make some sound so that they can control their expression, and they can tell what they are not actually feeling. So it was necessity to tell lie that led to origin of communication. So rather than speculate about which kinds of vocalization give rise to speech sounds, now there should be focus on understanding more logical, more scientific and evidence-based conclusions regarding how language has been originated. This is conclusion. So we have studies various theories starting from divine source theories, then natural evolution theory, where we have studies about tai, bow wow or ping pong hypothesis and others. Now third one was necessity, and we have discussed two versions of it. So this is summarizations of theories related to origin of language. So but earlier were more kind of theoretical part. They have no evidence, and we even can understand there are so much limitations. For example, if focus on natural evolution theory, so there are only certain situations which can be expressed by limited vocabulary, which can be imitated from nature. But life is very complex, and according to different cultural circumstances, a lot of vocabulary is different between different cultures. So how these variations can be understood? So we have to focus on more logical, more evidence-based conclusions. So now from different theories, some points have gained regarding how language can be originated, and these points have been summarized here. Firstly, there is now agreement that human languages must have existed at around 50,000 years ago, because that time was related to Upper Paleolithic time, and that time science in form of various arts, paintings has been found. And we have understood that communication is not only about verbal, it's also about non-verbal. So these signs, these paintings reflect some kind of information, so they have some medium of communication. So it's time period of Upper Paleolithic. Now second is brain's development. So which part of a brain is more focused so that human being can speak, because our ancestors may have some kind of speech, but that was not refined, that is not specialized, and so much diversity, so much clarity in our sound. So there is some part of brain which is needed for this work, this complex task. So that is Broca and Wernicke area. These are found in left hemisphere of our brain, and they have important function in speech production. Now, bipedal locomotion. It is considered that by bipedal locomotion, however, hand become free, and this led to more activities by hand, and use of tools also started, and this have important role in production of language. How bipedal locomotion have role in production of tools, we have understood this. Now, how use of tools led to production of language, we will discuss it later. Now, teeth. Humans teeth size is smaller, so that provide more space in our mouth. If we have more space, then air can pass through, and remember, clear passes of air, especially through larynx, which is called as voice box, have important role in clear production of sound. Now you can relate that why our teeth are smaller, because ripping or tearing of food that was earlier done by our ancestors, now this work has reduced because of tools formation. These all points are connected. Now we have more work of grinding and chewing, and this is done by premolars, molars, and even some sort of role by incisors and canines. So now role of teeth has reduced, our mouth has space. Lips, mouth, and tongue, all parts have role, because now our lips have muscles which have more interlinking ability. So our lips of muscles can fit with each other. Now secondly, mouth have more space, and our tongue also have muscular ability to cover a wide area of range. It is very flexible, especially compared to other primates. So all these conditions provide a perfect situation where sound can be produced, especially in clarity and with more diversity. Now humans can close off airway through nose to create more air pressure in mouth. So we have another option, that while we are speaking, even while we are eating, our nose can provide air. So we are not only dependent on our mouth for air passes, even our nose has main function of respiration. So extra organ of nose with more specialization also helped in production of speech. Now tool making source, which we have connected with bipedal locomotion. So according to it, early humans' hand became occupied with tool use, so they were less able to use hand gestures. So speech became a necessity for them. So this is saying about early humans who are busy with tool making and with other tasks. So they have less option to use different symbols. So this is particularly saying about how speech is produced, because earlier hypothesis also working on non-verbal communication, but this is especially about verbal communications. And this also brain development, bipedal, or the lips, mouth, tongue, these points have explained about how speech or how human have become potential to speech. Now Neanderthals and modern humans have share common gene, that is FOXP2. This signified that Neanderthal have a vocal tract that is capable of production of speech. But remember that this is more about biological evidences that how human being is able to produce sound, but there is role of social values, socialization. Now transmission by socialization, and this socialization has important role in transmission of language. So children's acquisition of structure and meaning of language has been called the most difficult intellectual achievement in life, because at age of 2 or 3, child able to understand what elders are speaking. So this shows that at that level of cognitive development, individuals have achieved a very difficult task, and this is very easy for a young child because he focus more on imitation. But at adult stage or in later age of life, it become difficult to learn another language because of less curiosity and less tendencies to imitate others. We have understood communication can be verbal as well as non-verbal. In verbal communication, focus directly on our vocal cord, how speech is produced. But in non-verbal communication, more about understanding cognitive aspect, use of various symbols. So now we will discuss in detail about non-verbal human communication. So according to Anthony Wilden, every act, every pose, every moment in living and social system also have a message. Even silence is a communication. So human being is a living being, and there are different movements that a individual produce, and these different movements have itself meaning. For example, if someone is eating something, so it is communicating something. If someone is putting mask on his nose, so this also communicating something. So every moment, every work is part of communication. Now kinesics, this word indicate that study of direct communication by non-verbal or non-vocal means, including postures, body movements, facial expressions, etc. So it shows that how different postures or symbols indicate communication by non-verbal things. So remember this term, kinesics. Some direct non-verbal communication appears to be universal in humans. For example, if someone is happy, sad, surprised, angry or disgusted or afraid face, these are universal even across countries, across races, religions. You can understand that these feelings almost similar. A happy face will always have a smile, and you can't expect a happy person to be very nervous. But there are some body languages, body gestures which have different meanings in different cultures, which are culturally determined. Now body language, you can divide this in different parts: posture, hand motion, facial expression, eye contact, gestures. So you can express by giving different examples how hand motion will decide different meaning. For example, if head is rotated left to right, it indicates meaning of no in Indian society, because it can have different meaning in other society. Now facial expression, again, if someone have very loneliness, very afraid, of course he will have very tense face. Similarly, for eye contact, it can shows confidence level, motivation level, happiness. So these are some of body language parts which can be used for communication. Certainly many body and hand gestures are far from universal. Specific signs and gestures are often culturally variable. and if these are not understood, then it can lead to misunderstandings between cultures of different person. For example, moving head up and down signals yes in United States but no in Greece. So this is important example, and if someone is going for IFS or another jobs in foreign countries, so they have to understand these kinds of communication patterns to have better understanding. Researchers in Alabama, this is again a study, performed an experiment with 112 females and male college students, and they have observed different handshaking pattern. So it shows that if a girl is more open minded and she is more overt and more expressive, then she will have more warmth handshake with opposite sex person, and this was opposite in case of low self esteem, less socialized girls. So you can mention these examples, these experiments for giving better arguments. So this is again female participants who are more extroverted and open to experience, and they have more warmth handshake, but shy also tended to have firmer handshakes. In North America, pause in conversation when one person is speaking but another speaks in between. So this shows that second person is interested in what one individual is telling. But this pattern is observed in New York City, which is more liberal, more open up. But in South and Southwest, when such overlapping or interfere in talking when someone is speaking, this may be considered as a disrespectful. So these have different meanings in different societies. Now symbolic communication, so it include gestures, code word or sentences that have meaning even when context is not given. For example, swastik symbols, even if an individual who have put swastik symbol on hat and he is not in temple, but although environment is different, context is different, but others can understand what his faith, and he is a more religious person. So this communication can be easily transferred. Now descriptive linguistic, this is a common term which is used in linguistic anthropology and terms in language, culture and communication part. So I have mentioned this. So there are three different terms in descriptive linguistic. So in descriptive, focus is on description when we describe something. So we focus on structure of that statement or that language. So this involves structural approach, and here different terms are used. First is phonology, how different sounds are produced. So aspect of language which focus on how different sounds are made and how they are used is termed as phonology. Second is morphology, this focus on how sound sequences are used and what is associated meaning of those sentences or those sequences. So it is more about morphology, outer structure. Now syntax, it is more associated with rules how different sequences or different words are connected with each other. So you can relate it with grammar rules which we use in English. So it's kind of that arrangement or rules which are used. Now relationship between language and culture, this is important. So how culture influences on language. If we define simply what is culture, so culture according to Tyler that we have studied in theories, culture is a complex whole of ideas, customs, beliefs which are transferred from one generation to another. So this is culture, and culture is a whole bigger term which have language as one of aspect. So how culture influence on language? So this is our topic. Now basic words for color, plants and animals. So here different points, different examples are given which will explain how culture have influence on language. So first, in these type of questions, what you have to explain, give an introduction by yourself, that what is culture, it is a complex, more wholesome, then explain language, and then give your arguments that yes, culture have certain influence and there are certain examples 1 to 3. So if you are feeling that these points are not systematic, you can arrange this knowledge according to demand of question. So my point is this only. Now basic words for color, plants and animals. So this was observed that peoples who live near the equator, who have darker eyes, and they have more contact with darker colors, because again green color is again very dark in equator, for example Amazon forest. So people tend to have fewer basic color terms, so because their focus is more on darkness. And even you can easily imagine how dark blue and dark black sometimes become difficult to differentiate. So that's why they have limited color terms. Now, but those people who are living away from equator, they have more terms for colors. So this was one of experiment. Now these tribal people have different names for coconut. Around 9 to 10 names they are used for different kind of coconuts. But in Western societies, even in mainstream societies like India or China society, they have only one term. So it indicates that someone's have much more importance of coconut in their commercial or economic as well as social cultural life. So due to that much importance, their language also indicating more focus on coconut. So now you can understand how culture is influencing our language pattern. Now third example is cross-cultural study has suggested that language may have word have, and if any culture, for example in modern society, there is focus on word have. So for example that person have a car, that person have a iPhone, so it indicates focus on some material objects, more focus on possession. So these terms indicates that these cultures have more private property and personal ownership of resources. So how language is related with cultural aspect? Because in simple societies where private ownership is less, they have less words like have in their vocabulary. These are some of the experiments or some of observation from different linguistic aspects. Now how linguistic or language influence on culture. So first is Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. These are Edward Sapir and Benjamin Lee-Whorf who have suggested that when we something that is language, it influences our thoughts, and this led to production of different attitudes, behavior, and behavior, attitude or action. What are they? They are part of our culture. So in this way, how language influence culture, this was explained by Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. They have given different examples. One of them is how Hopi tribe, they don't have term of future. That means any word which have synonym with future, this is not presented in their vocabulary. They are focused on past and present. So this vocabulary, this linguistic aspect has led to change in their culture, because they are not thinking about what will happen in future. So they are not focusing on surplus. Their economy, their life is more about thinking about today. So there is no surplus, there is no storage, even there is no focus on property ownership, because they are not thinking what will happen if someone has taken my fruits, my property, or my animals. So they are not thinking about these aspects. So this explains how language has influenced their culture. Now another study is Alexander Guerra and his colleagues, who have studied children speaking in different languages, one from Hebrew, another is English, and another is Finnish. So they have mentioned that in Hebrew language, words which have different meaning for different genders, these words started very early to enter in child's brain, because Hebrew language have more distinction between which word is for which gender. So this distinction has led to development of early identification of gender in child. So you can consider that how a child of 2 or 3 years old will differentiate more in terms of gender activities in Hebrew language, but in other cultures like English speaking or Finnish speaking people, child is not much differentiated about what is their gender and what roles they should play or how they should behave. So in very early age, Hebrew language create more gender distinction. Now when we compare two languages, Mayan language and English language, this was under John Lucy experiment. So remember this John Lucy experiment. So when Mayan language and English language are compared, so people who are fluent in English, they also focus on counting. But when people of Mayan language, when they are screened about any number, or for example, when there are Mayan people and there are English speaking people, and these peoples have given a task to identify different apples or different other fruits on a screen. So English speaking people have more tendency to give number also, that here apples were 4, bananas were 3, or grapes were more. So these have English people have tendency to remember number as well, but in Mayan language there is less focus on numbers. And you can also relate that these Mayan people have less focus on property, less focus on money. So how this language and culture are interrelated, you can write this example also. Now next topic is social context of language use, how language use is different in different social situations, and these social situations can be different environment. For example, when someone is talking in private or when someone is talking in public, so how our language use will be different. You can relate how you will talk with your friend and how with a teacher or with a boss in very formal environment. Now another factor is with whom we are talking. So that means age, gender, formal or informal relationships. These factors also influence how we will communicate. Now social linguistics. So this term is category of linguistic, and it explains how language is influenced by social constructs, institutions and roles. So these, whatever I have explained, this is covered under term sociolinguistics. It includes assessment of dialects in a region, analysis of how people speak to each other on basis of environment and content. The way people interact with each other can differ based on their gender roles, their relationships. For example, if someone is boss or someone is student, so these all factors influence how language is used. Now, social status and speech, how these are used, because social status is of course social context. Research has shown that English people, especially from higher class backgrounds, tend to have more homogeneous speech, and this homogeneity because they try to imitate more bookish language with more grammar, perfect pronunciations. This was observed from higher class people, and this is considered as standard English, whereas people from lower class backgrounds have very heterogeneous speech because of their different speaking style, and they focus on local dialects. But higher class people focus on homogeneity. They try to imitate what an top class person is speaking. So in that race of imitations, their language become more homogenized. Now, children from higher status families were less likely to drop the ending words than the children from lower status families. So when people, especially children, they are in hurry, they tend to drop last words. They try to more focus on what is core content, speak that much only. So this tendency is more among lower class people or lower class children as compared to higher class, again because of their higher standardization. Now, Clifford Geertz, in his studies of Javanese, he has mentioned that Javanese society, that is study in Java, there are three kinds of divisions: peasants, townspeople and aristocrats. They have different words for same object. So it again indicates how social status have influence on language. The reciprocal use of first name generally signify an informal or very strong or intimate relationship, but if someone is referring others by surname, so that indicates more kind of formal relationship. This is again a observation. This formal relationship is more in business like environments, and again who have equal status. Now, gender differences in speech, how gender also influence speech or language. So in Japan, males and females use different words for various concepts. For example, if we consider an object that is water, so male word for water is mizu and female version is ohiya. So how single object is pronounced by different words in Japan. Now, Robin Lake of study, he found that in English, women tend to answer questions with sentences that in and also raised another question. For example, consider a sentence when a woman is saying, I am looking very beautiful today, and in and she will say, am I? So she has given a statement, but again she has raised a question. One explanation for gender differences is regard to pronunciation, that women in many societies may be more concerned than men because women have more tendency to be right, to be more standardized. It is again an observation. So words chairman, policeman in English language, they are indicating that these posts, especially of leadership where physical strength is needed, men are more capable. So because of these words, and there are not similar words like chairwoman or policewoman. So this again indicates that language have influence on cultural aspects. Now, Tennant's study, he has mentioned that when women hear about someone else's troubles or any mishappenings, they tend to be more express sympathy. They show their emotions. But when similar situation is told to men, they are likely to offer different solutions. Men tend not to ask for directions, but women do. So you can consider that, yeah, women are more democratic, but this is another different aspect. So don't relate these aspects in your feministic ideology, but these are some of the studies, some of observations, and limit these points to only this chapter. Another aspect is that women tend to like to talk more in private settings, but men in public settings. And again, this was also observed that due to this behavior, it is considered that women are not as much capable as men in public speakings, and which is another characteristics of leadership. So these are different arguments which are given, but this is study of Tannen. Now writing and literacy. So language has part of print also. So how this writing style in language has developed. So this was about 6,000 years old when writing style was developed. And in today's time, focus is on literacy, where people are analyzed how they have ability of comprehend, whether they can read, speak, or done some basic calculations. So these literacy aspect is associated with development criteria. You can mention it with it SDC as well. So different programs like Saksharta Mission in India, these are going on for this literacy aspect. Now applications of linguistic anthropology. So what we have studied in our discipline all have applications, because we are studying about humans and there are a lot of issues in present society. So by how utilizing our knowledge we can provide our contribution. So let's think about how linguistic anthropology can contribute. First is gender inclusive language. For example, if policewoman, if chairwoman, these words are included in language, then it will have impact on our cognitive development, because language influence our culture. We have seen this aspect. So that will help in more gender justice or women empowerment or gender equity in society. So one goal can be achieved by our this understanding. Second is minorities. As we have understood that language is related with culture and culture is related with language. So if some minorities, they have their specific culture, they have language as, they consider language as their identity, so focus on their teaching, their study in mother tongue is important. So that will provide a boost to cognitive development. And for migrants or immigrants, this is important that government should provide them basic facilities regarding education in their mother tongue. You can relate with Article 350A or 350B in our constitution. Now languages saved from extinction. There are a lot number of endangered languages which are declared by UNESCO and which needs preservation urgently. So more than 50 of approximately 200 aboriginal languages in Australia disappeared relatively quickly as a result of disease and various massacres. So it indicates how languages are disappearing. So Hebrew is one of language which was preserved because of constant efforts, and now more than 5 million people speaks it. So we have to understand every language has importance, because language is associated with culture, and if we are saving any language, then that culture is saved, and every culture has uniqueness. Remember about cultural relativism of Francois. So, and also remember every culture will have some treasury of knowledge, some folklores, so that will give new insights about those people. So now from this point, conservation of language is important, and for this linguistic anthropology and its understanding, especially regarding descriptive linguistic, is important. So these are some of the applications which can be utilized. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. So please like, share and subscribe to Ask IAS if you want continuous updation from our side. Thank you so much.